Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, first published in 1818, is a Gothic novel that explores themes of ambition, creation, responsibility, and the dangers of unchecked scientific exploration. The novel is framed as an epistolary narrative, told through the letters of Robert Walton, an ambitious explorer, and the first-hand account of Victor Frankenstein, the scientist who creates a monstrous being. Below is a detailed chapter-wise summary of the novel, with in-depth explanations of key events, characters, and themes. Letters 1-4, Robert Walton's letters. The novel begins with a series of letters from Robert Walton, an ambitious explorer, to his sister, Margaret Seville, in England. Walton is on a voyage to the North Pole, driven by a desire for discovery and knowledge. He writes about his loneliness, longing for a true friend to share his thoughts. During his journey, his ship becomes trapped in ice, where he encounters a weak and emaciated man, Victor Frankenstein, floating on an ice raft. Walton rescues him and provides care. As Victor regains some strength, he learns about Walton's ambitions and warns him against pursuing knowledge recklessly. "You seek for knowledge and wisdom, as I once did, and I ardently hope that the gratification of your wishes may not be a serpent to sting you as mine has been." Letter 4. Victor then begins recounting his tragic story. Chapters 1-2, Victor's early life and education. Victor Frankenstein, born to a wealthy and loving family in Geneva, describes his childhood as idyllic. He is particularly close to Elizabeth Lavenza, an adopted orphan whom his parents intend for him to marry, and his best friend Henry Clerval. From a young age, Victor develops an insatiable thirst for knowledge, particularly in natural philosophy and alchemy, inspired by the works of Cornelius Agrippa and Paracelsus. As he grows older, his father encourages him to seek modern scientific knowledge rather than outdated alchemical ideas. However, Victor remains obsessed with unlocking the secrets of life and death. "The world was to me a secret which I desired to divine." Chapter 2. Duel 2. His curiosity and determination eventually lead him to the University of Ingolstadt, where his studies take a darker turn. Chapters 3-5, The creation of the monster. At Ingolstadt, Victor excels in chemistry and anatomy, gaining admiration from professors like Imke Waldman. His obsession deepens as he begins researching the possibility of reanimating life. After years of secret experiments, he succeeds in animating a creature made from assembled body parts. However, upon witnessing his creation's grotesque appearance, Victor is horrified. His yellow skin scarcely covered the work of muscles and arteries beneath. Chapter 5. Filled with regret and fear, Victor flees his laboratory and falls into a nervous fever. His friend Henry Clerval arrives, nursing him back to health. Meanwhile, the abandoned monster disappears into the night, beginning his own journey of suffering. Chapter 6-8, The creature's first crime. Victor receives a letter from home informing him that his younger brother, William, has been murdered. Upon returning to Geneva, he spots his creation lurking in the shadows near the crime scene and realizes that the monster must have committed the act. However, Justine Moritz, the family's kind servant, is accused of the crime. Despite Victor knowing the truth, he remains silent, fearing he will not be believed. Justine is executed after a forced confession. "I, not in deed, but in effect, was the true murderer." Chapter 8. Chapters 9-10, Victor's guilt and the monster's plea. Overwhelmed by guilt, Victor isolates himself and seeks solace in the mountains. There, he unexpectedly encounters the monster, who pleads for him to listen to his story. "I am thy creature. I ought to be thy Adam, but I am rather the fallen angel." Chapter 10. He asks for understanding rather than judgment. Chapters 11-16, The monster's story. The monster recounts his painful journey. Abandoned at birth, he struggled to survive and was met with fear and violence wherever he went. Eventually, he took refuge near the De Lacy family's cottage, observing them in secret. From them he learns language, human emotions, and morality. Hoping for companionship, he attempts to befriend the blind old man, De Lacy, but is violently chased away when the others see him. Heartbroken and enraged by his rejection, he seeks revenge against his creator. After discovering Victor's identity, he murders William and frames Justine. I am malicious because I am miserable. Chapter 16. He then demands that Victor create a female companion for him, promising to leave humanity alone. Chapter 17 to 20. The female creature and destruction. Victor reluctantly agrees and travels to Scotland to begin creating a female creature. However, as he nears completion, he fears the potential consequences. What if she rejects the monster, or if they breed a race of creatures? Horrified, he destroys his work. The monster, witnessing this, vows revenge. I shall be with you on your wedding night. Chapter 20. In retaliation, he murders Henry Clerval, and Victor is accused of the crime. Although acquitted, he suffers a mental breakdown. Chapters 21 to 23. The monster's final revenge. Victor returns to Geneva and marries Elizabeth. However, the monster follows through on his threat, killing Elizabeth on their wedding night. She was there, lifeless and inanimate, thrown across the bed. Chapter 23. Grief-stricken, Victor's father dies soon after. Devastated, Victor vows to hunt down his creation. Chapters 24 and Walton's final letters. The end of the chase. Victor chases the monster northward into the Arctic, where he is eventually rescued by Walton's crew. Weak and dying, he warns Walton against blind ambition. Shortly after, Victor dies. The monster, mourning his creator's death, declares his intention to end his own life and vanishes into the ice. I shall ascend my funeral pile triumphantly and exult in the agony of the torturing flames. Chapter 24. Conclusion. Frankenstein is a novel that warns of the consequences of playing God and abandoning responsibility. Victor's unchecked ambition leads to tragedy, while the monster's suffering makes him a tragic figure rather than a mere villain. Shelley's novel remains relevant as it questions the ethics of scientific progress, human nature, and the need for compassion.